And Gilberto is 28 when the story starts, and he's living in Queens, New York. And Gilberto, he's doing all right for himself. He works as a police officer, he just got married, and he has a little baby. But despite that, he's got a problem. He's got some pretty dark fantasies. Fantasies about kidnapping and murdering and even eating women. But they're just fantasies. And because these thoughts are creepy as hell, he keeps all of this to himself. No reason to tell anyone. But one day in 2012, all that changes because he gets on the internet and he starts visiting forums and chat rooms for people who have similar fantasies as him. And there, Gilberto starts connecting with people, and he finally feels at home, like there are other people who have these crazy thoughts like he does. And so he makes friends, and he starts talking to these other users about eating people and whatnot, and how wonderful that would be. Specifically though, he will describe horrible things that he would like to do to his own wife. Now his wife is this woman, Kathleen. And Kathleen and Gilberto, they've been married for a while, and she has no idea that he's into all this weird stuff. So, Gilberto will describe all of the horrible things that he would like to do to Kathleen to his online friends. And his online friends seem to love it. And this in turn encourages Gilberto to come up with more and more disturbing fantasy scenarios, and describe them to his online friends. And over time, he starts writing scenarios about other people in his life. Like, he'll write scenarios about his co-workers and his friends and his neighbors. He'll create detailed descriptive scenarios of how he would kidnap them and murder them, and then I guess eat them for dinner or whatever. And then he'll discuss these scenarios with his online friends. And this is apparently a lot of fun for him and all of the rest of them. But then they start crossing a line because at some point during all this, Gilberto meets this guy online, Michael. And Michael, he's apparently really into this whole eating people thing too. So, Gilberto sends Michael a photo of his wife's friend, and Michael thinks this woman is fine. Good enough to eat, I guess you could say. So, Gilberto then offers to kidnap his wife's friend and sell her to Michael. And I guess Michael's like, all right. So, they start negotiating on the price, and eventually they settle at $5,000. Now, luckily, Gilberto does not end up kidnapping his wife's friend. I'll explain why he didn't do it in a bit, but he does start falling into a pattern of offering up women to his creepy online friends. In one chat, Gilberto talks about cutting up a woman's feet and barbecuing them and making her watch while she's still alive. Another time, he tells an online friend about one of his former classmates from college and how she'd be an easy target because she lives alone now. And he talks about exactly how he'd attack her and that he'd wait until it's dark, and then he'd break into her house and knock her unconscious and abduct her, and then he would murder her and cook her in olive oil. He then creates a document on his computer that he names Abducting and Cooking Kimberly, a blueprint because that's the potential victim's name is Kimberly. And in the document, he writes down everything he can find about Kimberly: her ethnicity, her height, her weight, even her bra size. He also writes a list of things that he would need to kidnap her: chloroform, a strong rope to tie her up, plastic bags to protect the car trunk from any DNA. So, he's putting a lot of thought into this. And once he finishes writing all of this, he emails the whole thing to his online friend. And I guess the friend is like, sweet, it's perfect. These people airing weird, oh, but it actually gets even worse. One time he's texting with one of his online friends from Pakistan, and he sends the friend a picture of his wife Kathleen in a bikini, and they start talking about how he should bring her on a trip to India, and that there they can meet up, and then they can both end up smashing with her, and then they can both murder her and eat her for dinner. He's saying all this about his own wife. Now, here's the thing though. So far, Gilberto has made a lot of plans, but he hasn't actually broken the law because fantasizing about these terrible things is not the same as actually doing them. But here's where he starts to cross another, even scarier line. At some point, Gilberto decides he wants to write up more detailed plans about murdering and cooking up more women, but he wants to gather more information about these potential victims. And that is when he gets an idea. Remember, he's a police officer, so he decides to use his access to the police database to get more information about his potential victims. So, he gets to work on this. He logs into the National Crime Information Center database, and he starts looking up names of the women that he would like to murder and eat. And doing this, he collects all kinds of personal information on these women. Their ages, their records, their home addresses, pictures of them, any information that the database will give him. And he does this over and over and over again until eventually he has over 80 files of different women. Once he has all this info, he starts thinking up scenarios on how to abduct, kill, and cook each one of them. Then he takes these detailed abduction plans, and he links up with his weird internet buddies, and he shares them. And I'm sure his internet buddies are like, "Sweet, great work." And so at this point, no one knows that Gilberto is discussing all of these horrible things with these guys, or if he or any of his friends plan to actually murder and eat any of these poor, unsuspecting women, until one day, Gilberto's wife, Kathleen, notices something odd. While he's on his computer, he's always erasing his browser history. And so she gets really suspicious. She thinks he's trying to hide something like maybe he's having an affair or something like that. So eventually, she decides to secretly install spyware on his computer when he's not using it. And after she sets it all up, she ends up getting access to all kinds of stuff that he's doing. And she discovers that he's not having an affair, but that he's on the internet searching for things like how to tie up a girl, what to look for in human meat. She also reads his chats, and she sees how he and his online friends have been talking about murdering her and doing weird to her and her friends. She also finds pictures of herself, her friends, and many more women. And to make it worse, she even finds graphic images of women being hurt and assaulted in very gratuitous ways that I won't explain here. Now, I don't think these were pictures that he himself had taken. I think they were just pictures he got off the internet, but either way, he has them on his computer. So, of course, Kathleen is shocked and super scared, and she's like, "He's going to eat me and all my friends." So, she goes to the police and she reports her husband. And so blam, police arrest Gilberto, and I don't have a mug shot, but here is a picture of him in real life. And so, in 2013, he ends up going to trial over all this. And his defense team argues that he was never actually going to murder and eat and do horrible things to any of these women. That he and his online buddies, they were just engaging in a bit of fantasy role-playing, and that they never actually acted on any of these fantasies. That's why he didn't actually follow through with kidnapping his wife's friend or any of the stuff that they had talked about doing. Regardless, the jury doesn't buy it, and they find him guilty. However, in 2014, the appeals court overturns his conviction, ruling that he actually was engaging in fantasy role-playing. So, after 21 months of being locked up, he's finally let out, and he's now a free man. And since then, he's actually become an author of extreme horror novels, which I'm not going to lie, that sounds like a pretty good gig for